There is one thing that I've been doing on Escape from Tarkov that has completely, and I mean completely, cost me a ton of money, especially recently, and I want to make sure that you guys don't waste your money, don't waste your time, and understand what the benefits are of doing the said thing within the game, which is of course surrounding the marked room keys, which we do have in the game. But the thing about these, I'm going to go into a bit of the money, the reward, and why you shouldn't actually bother doing these in the first place. So starting off is, how expensive actually are these? This is the primary reason why they are not worth your time or worth you spending any energy and basically spending any money going to do them. Now, obviously, if you've checked the prices of marked room keys, you can see that the Dorms 314 marked room key at the moment is sitting at 23 million rubles. Now, that is a absolute ton of rubles to essentially put into something, especially as a beginner player, someone who has been trying to grind out your money. And given the current state that we have of the market at the moment, because of the fact that all of the hideout items now became that you had to find them in raid yourself to upgrade your hideout, and therefore the price of these items has gone crashing through the floor. A lot of the high valuables that you used to find, things like toolkits, all sorts, where they used to be 150k, they're now still, you know, okay money, but they're maybe a third of the price of what they used to be, and a lot of the time they've actually gone lower than what you can just sell them to traders for. So in terms of making your money to afford these keys, especially if you've been playing recently, you'll understand it's a lot more difficult. But not only that, is that these marked room keys have specific loot associated within them, and there is one thing that you're going to want to try and get your hands on, and those are, of course, the key cards that you can get for labs, and these are available in the marked rooms that you can actually get. But the one problem that I found with getting the key cards ever since BSG made a negative update, or at least not a negative update for in terms of the economy, but they made the key cards far less frequent to spawn in marked rooms. And then in addition to that, they actually removed the ability for you to essentially use them indefinitely, so they now are 10 out of 10 uses. Obviously that's been in the game for a long time now, but it did mean that the prices of a lot of these key cards has gone just flying through the floor. And so, for example, a labs red key card, you can pick one up for 5.2 million rubles. Now you might be thinking, well, okay, I only need to get 4 of those to make my money back for the actual Dorms marked room key that, you know, you paid for. And so, yes, you only have to get 4 of them. But the problem is that the keycard rate that I've typically observed when I've been running any of the keycards, the best ones, the ones that have the most spawns for rares and keycards, things like Abandoned Factory, things like Dorms 314, things like Check 13, RBBK, these all do not have the amount of keycard spawns in them to make it viable to realistically make your money back just off of the keycards. And so typically, I'm ranging anywhere from about 2 to 3 keycards every single time that I open up a marked room. And so you might be thinking, well, okay, so maybe you make your money back, maybe you don't. Well, in fact, if we take an average of the keycards that you can get in there, now from experience, I've typically found that you find more yellows than you find any other keycards. You typically find a few violets, sometimes you'll find a blue, and the red and green seem to be a little bit rarer, but not like substantially rarer. You can get them relatively frequently. But if we take the price of a yellow keycard as it currently stands right now, 1.7 million. Okay, so you basically on a Dorms marked room key would still lose money by opening up that room and getting a yellow labs keycard. Because if you take the total cost of 22 million divided by 10, it's 2.2 million to open up the actual room. And so you need to make 2.2 million just to break even with that keycard. And this isn't even the worst offender out of all of the keycards. For example, if you're looking at some of the others, you've got the RBPKPM at about 7 million, RBVO at 9 million. You've got yourself RBBK, which I recently bought for about 10 million, but it goes from anywhere from like 12 to 20 million to pick up an RBBK. And then you've got Check 13 Marked Room, which is sitting at around about 6.4 million. And then you've got yourself the Abandoned Factory Marked Room key sitting at around 9.5 million. Now you might be thinking, why is the Dorms Marked Room key so expensive compared to some of the others? Well, it's because of the fact that although the Check 13 and Abandoned Marked Room keys have the possibility of spawning those key cards, and that's what everyone wants, they don't have the ability for people to bug abuse, which is currently in the game, whereby if you play on a locally hosted server, what you can do is you can Alt F4 and then it exits out of the raid and none of the progress within that raid is saved. So when you load back into the game, your character is exactly the same as it previously was before you went into the raid, which means any key uses used do not count. And so essentially you can open up the Dorms 314 Marked Room as many times as you possibly want so that you guarantee a keycard every single time that you open up the door. Although in reality you've probably opened it 30, 40, 50, maybe even 60 times in order to guarantee that you got a keycard every single one of those 10 uses. It does mean that is going to drive the price of the keycard up, because if it was about 10 million, which is probably what the price of the key should actually be if this bug wasn't in the game right now, because people are using those keys to do this bug and therefore the bug is kind of increasing the cost of the key. And so you'd probably see the Dorms 314 at the price of about an Abandoned Factory key, which is about 9.5 million. 8 million there to pick up one. You can see 10 out of 10 uses, which would be a nice one to pick up. But in terms of why Abandoned Factory and Check 13 aren't available is because Streets is only available on the BSG servers, which stops the potential for anyone to use that bug, which is the Alt F4 bug, to leave the raid after they've opened the room. It's not possible, and so if you Alt F4 out of the Abandoned Factory or Check 13, you'll just get put back into the raid when you load back in to escape from Tarkov and reconnect back in. So there is no possibility of you using that key again and re-rolling the key use to get a keycard out of it. And that is the biggest problem at the moment, and it's driving the price of the key up. Now you might be thinking, well, maybe I just do that bug. Maybe I am going to be the one that is going to re-roll all of the rooms in order to get myself a keycard. And no, you would not want to do that. And there's a reason for that, because although you might be thinking, well, okay, if I get 10 key cards and I can guarantee that the key cards are going to be worth somewhere in the region of, for example, I don't know, a red key card is like 5 million. You've got a yellow key card being 1.7 million. You've got a blue key card being somewhere in the region of around 4 million, I believe, about 3.5 million. Well, these keys, even if you got, say, for example, a average value of the key cards of about 3 million, you are still going to essentially get about 30 million rubles. And the cost of a Dorms 314 Marked Room is 22 million. So you have made 8 million. But in order to guarantee that you are going to get a keycard in every single one of those rooms, you are gonna need to spend an absolute ton of time to go ahead and open up those rooms. It could take 40 different raids in order for you to do it. It could take 50 raids to guarantee those keycards out of the room. And so you are going to spend 50 raids worth. If we take, for example, the average time of a raid of about 20 minutes, if you were simply just running there, running to extract, looting up the room, clearing out the Dorms 314 actual area to make sure there's no one else there to PK you once you come out, then you're going to waste a ton of your time. And so 20 minutes per raid at about 40 raids, that's 800 minutes, or the equivalent of about 12 hours of running marked rooms to earn yourself 8 million rubles. Now, that, in all fairness, is a appalling amount of money. 8 million rubles for 12 hours of time. This is a complete waste of your time and a complete waste of the amount of money that you were going to potentially make doing other things within the game, which is where the marked rooms become a bit of a noob trap. And if you were just constantly running marked rooms, you know, maybe you really enjoy it, then this video isn't for you. But if you're after a way to make consistent money, then marked rooms are just going to be both a potential loss every single time that you open them, and you could get seriously unlucky and open all 10 uses and get 0 key cards, and you've just lost the full amount of the key. And so these just are not worth the value that the PvE market at the moment is actually wanting for them. Beforehand, they were worth about the same, but you were getting 4, 5, 6 different key cards in every 10 uses that you were opening them up, and so it made more sense. The key cards were worth more every single time that you open them up because they were infinite use at the time, and so you could make a lot of money. Now it's gone the complete opposite way, and you're just wasting time and you're wasting money to do so. And I thought I'd really highlight that home in these raids. I opened up the abandoned factory key to be able to get ourselves a red key card in my first opening of the abandoned factory when I opened up my fresh new abandoned factory key, and we got a red key card. Now on that key card I am probably going to make money because of the fact we got one of the most expensive keys out of the actual marked room, which means, you know, hey ho, we are going to make money on that key. But equally, we could have opened all 10 and got nothing and then ended up losing 5 million, 6 million rubles. Now, obviously, inside of the room, you do get loot such as dog tag cases, injector cases, ammo boxes, all sorts of other loot, weapons, that sort of stuff that maybe you can't actually unlock until later on down the line. So it is potentially useful for some people. But as a money-making strategy, you're probably only making like 300k out of the room if you don't get a key card, dependent on if you get a dog tag case, injector case, etc., which can buff it up to maybe 500, 600k, maybe even 700k. You can get red rebels out of them. You can get tigers and that sort of stuff, exclusive like melee weapons that you can get out of them. But equally, those come very few and far between, where the average cost of those and the average chance of getting them makes it far beyond the price of the key, and you're never going to make your money back consistently unless of course you hit big. And so it is literally a gamble as to whether or not right now you want to open up the marked room. And because you're not only gambling with your money and rubles, but actually gambling with your time as well, it just becomes a double barrel where you're just going to end up wasting your time and the potential money that you could have got using that time elsewhere. Now, as a bit of a thing to add on to this video, one thing I would highly recommend is the fact that you go ahead and, you know, you hit up labs, you learn streets, and those two maps on their own, if you learn them, you spend the same amount of time as you did just opening up marked rooms for the potential chance of getting key cards, you will have a much greater chance of being able to make way more money. And in those 12 hours, you would have probably made 30, 40, 50, maybe even 100 million rubles just from simply running those rooms. I'm averaging about 3 million rubles a raid if I play it on streets, very passively, very safely. We've done videos on those routes that you can go and take a look at some of the high tier keys that you can pick up for relatively cheap, nowhere near the price of 20 million, and you're going to have a much better time. I thought I'd highlight this in a video, let you guys know that the marked room keys are just not it for PvE, and you probably shouldn't waste any of your time or your rubles in getting them. And of course, if you've got them and you find them in the raid, maybe you open up a rusted room and you get a ton of marked room keys, just sell the keys. They are not worth doing. And although you can do some barter trades by opening up RB PKPM, RBVO, and then RBBK, running them down to 1 out of 10 uses on each and every one of those, and then essentially you can transfer it into a dorm's marked room key, the total cost of the RBBK, VO and PKPM is still more than what you would actually pay for a dorm's marked room, and so you need to get a key card out of them. Those three are not particularly the greatest for getting key cards, and so it's really a bit of a risk even doing that, and so you may not even make the money back enough off of opening up 27 uses. You will in terms of the rare, like just the loose spawns of valuables that you get in there, but at the same time it's once again your time, and you're only really saving the cost of what you spent on the keys. You're not actually making money, and so that is another reason. Of course, there's the enjoyment factor of it. I open them because I enjoy doing it, but in terms of money and in terms of your time on the game progressing and stuff like that, it is simply not worth it. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. Of course, we'll have some guides. We'll have a series coming very, very shortly on a full kind of PvE series starting from the very bottom. We're going to run through a ton of different things. I'm going to show you how I would make money as a very beginner player, how I'd advance my account, how I level up my hideout, the sorts of things that I'll focus on, and completing various different tasks that maybe you are getting stuck on, and I'll be going through and doing full raids and that sort of stuff, cutting them down into more concise videos and hopefully having a topic around each video as we progress the account on the kind of a hardcore-ish style of PvE account that we're going to be playing on. So hopefully that is something to look forward to, and hopefully you'll subscribe to see some more content from myself. But other than that, check out the Twitch link in the description below, where we'll be streaming on the weekends and on days where I have off from work, and in the evenings potentially sometime. And of course, you can check out the Discord channel as well that I've created that has a decent chunk of players, but I haven't really advertised it. If you want to see some guides and stuff like that and help from other players, maybe even join up with some other PvE players. And I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.